Actually, Kate ordered me to tell the story about Rivers. And I think it all stems from the fact that she's a graduate of Vanderbilt University. And they told the graduates that Vanderbilt graduates were privileged. You're very good. She also made me use a stool, if you get the connection, if you're in there. Privies have we've always had stories about outhouses and privies, but they've also had a unique place in our history. And Johnson's concentration camp in Ohio was a Confederate prison where up to 15,000 officers from the Confederacy were processed during the Civil War. And there was a period after the Civil War when that site was the number one archaeological place in the world because of what they found in the privies after they left a long time, from either accidentally dropping things or maybe intentionally hiding some things. And but these kinds of experiments have been conducted in a lot of the privies around the world. So they've had a bad reputation and a good reputation. Give you the story I'm about to tell. I told in a Stone Mountain, Georgia one time, and a gentleman came up afterward and said he was a Navy officer in World War II, and that they determined the number of Japanese on an island by looking at the privies hanging over the lagoon. The Japanese military handbook said 36 a privy for every 36 soldiers. So they counted the privies and knew how many Japanese soldiers were. So there's military intelligence, right? During the Depression years, Franklin Delano Roosevelt started a program called the Works Public Administration, WPA. They went across this country building art places and privies. The health department said everyone had to have some kind of facilities. And so they came here to this place and told my grandfather that they had to build a privy, and he had to contribute a dollar. A dollar during the Depression years was big money. And so he fussed about it. He was an intelligent man, and therefore he had a little concern about government, as we all should. But my mother told me after I was grown, he said that my grandfather said, well, they can make me build it, but they can't make me shit in it. So that's the history of that privy. There's the picture of the privy, and it's above the cabin up there today, still almost 100 years old. About this time, Chick Sales told this story that I'm going to tell called The Specialist. Uh, it takes about 15 minutes if you want to take a nap. You've heard a lot of prattling about this being the age of specialization. I'm a carpenter by trade. At one time, I could have built a house, a church, or a chicken coop. But I seen the need of a specialist in my line, and I studied her, and I got her. Ladies and gentlemen, you're face-to-face with the champion privy builder in the county. Luke Harkins was my first customer. He comes to me one day. I built for him just the ordinary 8 in the family 3-over. And with that job, my reputation was made. And since that time, I've spent all my time and thought into that special line. Of course, when business is slow, I do a little paper hanging on the side. But my heart is in privy building. And when I finish a job, I ain't through. I give each of my customers 6 months privy service free gratis. I explained this to Luke, and he comes to me one day and said, "Lim, I wish you'd come out here. I'm having privy troubles." So I gets in the car and drives out to Luke's place. Get behind them Baldwins so I get a good view of the situation. It's right in the middle of haying time. And those hired hands is going in there and staying anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour. Think of that. I said, "Luke, you sure have got privy problems." So I get my set of tools and go in and look at the structure. First, I'll look at the catalog there, thinking it might be that. But it wasn't even from a recognized house. Then I take a look at the seats proper, and I see what the trouble was. I had made them holes too darn comfortable. So I get out a scroll saw and cuts it square with hard edges. And gets back where I was before. He here, Baldwin's there, through there. Watch them hired hands go in there for over an hour. Not one of them is staying over 4 minutes. Luke, I says, I've solved her. Now that's what comes from being a specialist, ladies and gentlemen. Not long after that, I built a 2-holder for the schoolhouse. After that, the biggest plant up to date, an 8-holder. Elmer Ridgeway was down looking it over, and he comes to me one day and said, "Lim, I see that 8-hole job you've done down there at the corners, and it sure is a dandy. And seeing as how I'm going to build on the old Robertson's property, I thought I'd kind of ask you if you'd sort of estimate on a job for me. You come to the right man, Elmer. I'll be over just as soon as I get the roof on the 2-seater I'm putting up for the sheriff." A couple of days later, I'm out to Elmer's place. I see they got some folks for dinner, so not wishing to disturb them, I just goes around to the side door and say, "Hey, Elmer, here I am. Where you want the privy put?" Elmer comes out, and we get to discussing a good situation. He's all for putting along a jagged path under a northern spy. I wouldn't do it, Elmer. And I'll tell you for why. In the first place, her being near a tree is bad. There ain't no sound in nature so disconcerting as a bunch of apples falling on the roof. And another thing, it's a jagged path running by that tree. That soil there ain't adapted to absorbing moisture. During the rainy season, she's likely going to be slippery. Take your grandpappy. Going out there is the only recreation he gets. He's likely to go out some rainy night. His night is flipping around his knees. Like as not, you'll find him prone in the mud in the morning. Or maybe skidded off one of them curves and ended up in the corn crib. No, sir. Put her in a straight line with the house. And if it's all the same to you, have her go by the wood pile. I'll tell you for why. Take a woman. Out she goes. On her way back, she'll pick up 5 sticks of wood. And the average woman will make 4 or 5 trips a day. There's 20 sticks in your wood box without any trouble. On the other hand, take a timid woman. If she sees any men around, she's too bashful to go direct out. So she'll go to the wood pile, pick up the wood, come back, and watch her chance. The average timid woman, I've known to make as many as 10 trips to the wood pile before she goes in, regardless. On a good day, you'll have your wood box full by noon. Now, about the digging of her. You can't be too careful about that. Dig her deep and dig her wide. It's a lot better to build a little privy over a big hole than a big privy over a little hole. And another thing, once you dig her deep, you've got her done. You ain't got that disconcerting thought feeling over you that you're going to have to dig again. Now, about her construction, I can give you joists or beams. Joists make a good job. Beams cost a bit more, but you might say they're worth it. Of course, I can give you joists, but your Aunt Amy ain't getting any lighter. She's likely to go out there someday and that joist giveaway, and there she'd be catched. So, and another thing, Elmer, that Odd Fellers picnic out here in the fall, them fellas getting in there and singing and drinking and the like. I tell you, there ain't nothing that'll break up an Odd Fellers picnic quicker than a digging party. Beams, I say, every time. And rest secure. All right. Now, about her roof, I can give you a pitch roof or a slant lean-to type. Some of our best people have slant roofs. The others are pretty. If it was for me, I'd take a slant roof. I'll tell you for why. A slant roof has 2 less corners for the wasps to build their nests in. And on a hot August afternoon, there ain't nothing so disconcerting as to be sitting there with a bunch of wasps buzzing around while you're sitting there doing a little thinking. Now, about our furnishings, I can give you a nail or a hook for the catalog, and what's more, a box for cobs. Take your pa, he's of the old school, and of course he'll prefer the box. Put them both in, Elmer. It'll keep peace in the family. Now, I want to tell you about a technical point that was put to me the other day. The question was this: how long will the catalog last in just the ordinary 8 in the family, 3 over? It stumped me for a while, but this being a reasonable question, I studied and found out when you put your catalog in there in January, when you get your new one, you should be into the harness section by June. Of course, that ain't near apple time and not counting on too many city visitors. Now, I never use knotted timber, only clear white pine. And I'll tell you for why. take a knot hole. If it doesn't fall out, it'll be pushed out. And if it comes in the door, 9 times out of 10, it'll be too high for you to sit there and look out. And just the right height for some snooper to peek around and peek in. And there you are, catched. Now, how do you want the door to swing, Elmer? Elmer said he didn't know. It should swing in. Here's how it works out. Put yourself in there. The door open about 45 degrees. Gives you air and lets the sunshine in. And if you hear someone coming, you can give her a quick shove with your foot, and there you are. But if she swings out, where are you? You can't run the risk of her having her out for air or for sun, because you can't get up and reach around and get her without being catched. So I hung my doors like all, Elmer's doors like all my doors, swinging in. And facing the east, and I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, there ain't nothing more comfortable than me sitting out there in the morning, Mr. Sun coming in on you, makes the body feel mighty, mighty restful. With one of my privileges, you'll never have to go to the psychiatrist. Now, about the painting of her. What color you want her, Elmer? Well, I guess red. Elmer, I can paint her red, or I can paint her a bright green, or any other half a dozen other colors. But it ain't practical to use a single solid color. And I'll tell you for why. They're too blame hard to see at night. You need contrast like they have on them railroad crossing bars. As for myself, I paint her red with white stripes like their barn. And they'll match up nice in the daytime, and you can find her at night when you ain't got much time to go snooping around. You see, ladies and gentlemen, there's a whole lot more to building a privy than you can tell by just taking a few glances at your neighbors. But Elmer Ridgway, that old boy up in East Tennessee, is telling me about a winter lady that ordered privy from Mr. Sears up in Chicago. It was delivered, and she got her brother-in-law to set it up for her. Everything looked up to standard. But pretty soon, Mr. Sears got a letter from the lady saying she's unhappy with the new facility. Mr. Sears wrote right back, said, what is the difficulty? She returned the letter with, I'm not satisfied, but I ain't telling. He wrote another letter, asked her, please, we will make amends, we will correct anything. I ain't telling. So, you know, Mr. Sears can't tell a no on his double-back guaranteed state of mind. He gets his number one PR man on the train, says, you go down there and find out what in tarnation is wrong with that privy. So Mr. PR, dapper, bowler hat, nice goatee beard, knocks on the lady's door and says, Mr. Sears sent me down here to find out what the problem is with your privy. I ain't telling. So Mr. PR went and took a look at the facility, looked all over, everything looked promising. He turned to her and said, please tell me what the difficulty is. I ain't telling. So Mr. PR put his bowler hat aside, got out his flashlight, give a philosophical pull on his goatee, reached his head down into Mr. Sears' number 2 Pride and Joy, looked all around, and everything looked perfect. So resigned to frustration, he started to raise his head out of that privy when he was brought to a sudden halt. When that goatee got caught in a little hairline crack in the seat. And he says, "Oh." And she says, "Smarts, don't it?" So you see, ladies and gentlemen, as the whole, you just can't depend on an amateur to build your bridge. Well, time passed, and I finally got Elmer's facility completed. And whenever I get to feeling blue, and maybe I should have took up chiropractic or veterinary, I gets the missus and the kids in the car. We drive out to Elmer's place, drive up above the hill above his place, looks down on that beautiful side. There stands that privy, painted red and white, near the wood pile. Morning glories growing up over, Mr. Sun coming in, bathing her. And I looks at that, and I'm proud. I says to myself, what other people are saying, that's the finest piece of construction in the country, in the county. So, slipping the car in the mutual, I put my arm around the missus and says, "Laura, Elmer never has to worry. He's a boy that's got himself a privy, a mighty, mighty privy, pretty privy." Yeah, that. Here's a trivia question for you. When the first flush toilets were made in England, who made them? Thomas Crapper. That's interesting.
Thank you. That was